A little over 5 months ago, a senseless act of violence shook our community. On July 17th at approximately 5:56 p.m., 20-year-old Jonathan Sapperman opened fire inside the Greenwood Park Mall food court. He killed 3 innocent people and injured several others. His horrific actions were abruptly ended by Elijah Dicken, a 22-year-old man who was lawfully carrying a handgun. From this point forward, Sapperman will be referred to as the shooter. Over the course of the past 5 months, detectives from the Greenwood Police Department and the FBI have worked diligently to investigate this crime and attempt to determine a motive behind it. Over the next few minutes, I will walk you through these steps of the investigation, what we discovered, and the questions that still remain unanswered. I will begin by discussing the shooter's laptop and cell phone. As you may remember, the laptop was found in the oven at the shooter's apartment. He had also placed a butane tank inside the oven. The butane tank exploded and the laptop was so badly damaged that we were unable to access the files. The shooter's cell phone was located in a toilet in the food court restroom. It was submerged in water. The FBI in Quantico, Virginia was able to dry the cell phone and get it to power up. However, the cell phone was password locked. It is currently at the FBI lab in Quantico, hooked up to software designed to run every possible combination for the 6-digit code. This is very time-consuming because there are approximately 1 million possible combinations. This process is still ongoing and could take years to unlock. It is for this reason that we have not been able to conduct a forensic examination of the cell phone. We have, however, obtained the shooter's cell phone records, including call and text message logs, internet browsing history, and cloud history. Nothing of significance was found in these records. If and when the FBI is able to unlock the cell phone, we will provide an update at that time should there be any substantial evidence retrieved. During the course of this investigation, investigators conducted interviews of the shooter's family members, ex-foster parents, and friends. They also served search warrants to the following social media and technology companies: Facebook, Instagram, 4chan, Reddit, Apple, AT&T, Verizon, Bandwidth.com, TextNow Inc., and Google. Search warrants and subpoenas were also served to the Polo Run apartment complex, Department of Child Services, and all school corporations that the shooter attended. This is what we found. The shooter was born in Columbus, Ohio, where he lived with both parents until they separated when he was 5 years old. His father moved to New York while the shooter and his 2 brothers moved to Florida with their mother. CPS reports indicated that the shooter was at times homeless as a child. There were a total of 12 Child Protective Service reports filed from the time that the shooter was 11 years old until he was 18 years old. These reports range from allegations of abuse, neglect, drug use, and truancy. During this time, the shooter was in and out of foster care 6 times. On October 15, 2018, the shooter's older brother was awarded custody of the shooter. The shooter was 17 years old when he moved into his brother's apartment in the Polo Run apartment complex. The shooter lived in the Polo Run apartment complex from 2018 until July of 2022. During this time, his father was helping him pay the rent and his bills. The shooter quit his job in May of 2022 and had no income. In June of this year, the shooter's brother removed his name from the apartment lease, and the shooter was living in the apartment alone. During the same time frame, the shooter's father cut off all financial assistance and even had the shooter's cell phone turned off. Days prior to the mall incident, the shooter received notification from Polo Run apartment complex that he was being evicted due to lack of payment. As mentioned earlier, search warrants were served to Facebook, Instagram, 4chan, and Reddit, all of which the shooter had accounts with. After diving into the content of the shooter's post, it was determined that he utilized Reddit most often. In fact, from 2017 to 2022, the shooter made over 700 comments on subreddits related to mass killers. We were unable to locate any comments made by the shooter on these subreddits that would indicate he was planning on carrying out such an attack. On the contrary, almost every post was more of a discussion or debate concerning other high-profile mass killings around the country. The shooter acknowledged several times in these comments that he studied and researched mass killings and serial killers. It seemed that he enjoyed debating with others the tactics, motives, and details surrounding these incidents. One of the things that we noticed as we dove into the shooter's digital footprint was his choice of email addresses and usernames for his social media accounts. Some that gave us concern were thedarkwillrise@gmail.com, xxjonathandark@gmail.com, and his Reddit usernames, the Greater German Reich and Grober Germanic. This is a political state name that Nazi Germany tried to establish in World War II. We found nothing linking the shooter to any anti-Semitic beliefs or Nazi idealizations. His family informed us that from a young age, the shooter had a fascination with World War II and Nazi Germany, and that he read and studied on that topic. Several of his subreddit posts referenced the Germans, Nazis, and World War II, however, nothing that would suggest he shared the Nazi ideology. Instead, it seemed that he was touting his knowledge of the subject. Upon checking the FBI's database, agents learned that the FBI office in Baltimore, Maryland, received an anonymous tip online on December 6, 2019. The tips were stated that someone using the name Greater German Reich had been posting on a subreddit for mass killers. The tip stated that the person posting seemed to have a desire to learn about mass killings, to idolize the killers, and to have access to guns. The FBI Baltimore tracked the IP address associated with the post to the Indianapolis area. Baltimore FBI then transferred the tip to the Indianapolis FBI. Further investigation by the Indianapolis FBI revealed that the IP address associated with this particular user was issued to the Polo Run apartment complex. This IP address would be assigned to anyone using the free apartment complex Wi-Fi, which made it increasingly difficult to identify the user. After exhausting all avenues to identify the unsub and lacking any accusations of criminal activity, the investigation was closed on March 30th, 2020. There were no additional complaints or reports made concerning these email addresses, usernames, or the shooter that would have prompted subsequent investigations. Detectives and FBI agents also interviewed family members and friends of the shooter. The names of those interviewed will not be shared today to respect their privacy. However, what they shared that is pertinent to this investigation is as follows. A high school friend of the shooter described him as antisocial. He stated that the shooter was very quiet and never talked about personal issues. He stated that their relationship primarily revolved around smoking marijuana. He informed investigators that the shooter had a strong interest in guns and drugs. He stated that he once joked with the shooter, telling him that he was, quote, the school shooter type. However, the shooter never communicated to him any plans to harm others. Detectives also spoke to the shooter's ex-girlfriend. She stated that she and the shooter broke up about 18 months prior to the incident at the mall. She expressed that it did not surprise her at all that he committed this crime. She described the shooter as a very unhappy person. She stated that he had a fascination with Nazi Germany, firearms, and drugs. She informed investigators that the shooter was abusive towards her on several occasions and once even stuck a gun in her mouth during an argument. She also reported that he once told her, quote, this world is not made for me, and I will not live past 20 years old. He also told her that if he ever killed himself, he would take others with him. She stated that the shooter was also racist towards African Americans and Hispanics due to bad experiences that he had with people of those races while he was growing up. None of these incidents were ever reported to police. In closing, there is no clear motive as to why the shooter committed this crime or why he chose the time and place to do it. He did not communicate his intentions via electronic media or directly to anyone. He also did not leave a note or manifesto citing his motivation. Although 3 of the victims were Hispanic, there is no definitive proof that they were targeted due to their race. We do know that all 3 victims were closest in proximity to the shooter when he exited the restroom. Therefore, we are unable to determine if he specifically targeted them due to their race or if they were just more opportunistic or the most opportunistic targets. I would also like to note that the Johnson County prosecutor has reviewed this case and found that Elijah Dicken, that his use of deadly force was lawful under Indiana law. There will be no charges filed against Mr. Dicken for his actions in this incident. And I would like to make it perfectly clear that we consider, and there's no doubt in my mind, that Elijah Dicken saved many, many lives that night, and he is a true hero.